All right, welcome everyone to this episode of Notes with Jack.
The
My
35th, the 35th.
No, man, I think we're at this. I think this might be number 17. I'm gonna
Gee.
make sure my mic's on. Yes, number 17. I think I'm here with the director of the 2002 Nora Ephron play,
Oh, wow.
Imaginary Friends.
Yeah. How interesting that you bring this up, and I'll tell you why. Yesterday,
Yeah.
well, let me just go one day earlier.
Okay.
There's so much crap on television right now that I can't find something I really want to spend the evening watching, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And so I decided to look at a film 2 nights ago, and the
Okay.
film I chose was Rear Window,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
because I haven't seen a Hitchcock in a long time, and I thought it was sort of stupid.
Yeah. Wait, when you watched it originally or last night or 2 nights ago?
Last night. No, I
Yeah.
mean 2 nights ago. I mean,
Yeah.
it was very simplistic and
Yeah.
it's very contrived and he does all these blackouts between
Yeah.
scenes, you know. So I was sort of astonished at the simplicity of it. It didn't scare me. I remember seeing the film and
Yeah.
admiring it when I saw it when I was much younger. But I think some of his work still sustains. I'm not sure this is what you'd call his best work. Anyway, what
Yeah.
this meant was I had this real lonely thinking about Nora Ephron
Hmm.
and Mike Nichols.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
What do you mean? What do you mean lonely thinking? You just missed talking to them.
I miss them. I miss their.
Yeah.
I miss the standards that they have. I missed the fact that when you talk to either of them, you pulled yourself up and
Yeah.
kind of delivered. You know what I mean?
Talk to me about those relationships. Like, how did you meet? Did you meet them kind of in the same place, or like
Well,
Nora
it's-
Ephron and Mike Nichols? I mean,
Well, it's kind of interesting that you bring this play up because
Yeah.
there are things about this play. Well, we didn't do it very well.
Mm.
Is that right? Is that right? Is that even fair? No, I don't think that's fair. It's a mystery bag for me. When I look back, there are things that I didn't handle very well, and I'll tell you why. I got a call from Mike. Now, Mike and I weren't close yet, as close
Right.
as we became.
okay.
But we knew each other, and he was because of Stoppard, because of my success, particularly I think with the invention of love.
Yeah.
He was suddenly I was a new person.
Everybody chases heat. That's the golden rule of Hollywood and entertainment.
Yeah, I
Everyone
suppose
chases
that-
heat.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
So Mike
anyway,
Nichols is chasing you.
so he was, and
right.
and he liked me, and I liked him too. I was not like was
Sure.
thrilled to be part of that.
Yeah.
I got a call, and he wants me to meet with Nora, and then it's also. Oh, I should have looked all these names up because the problem. I just can't remember any of the names. Who did the chorus line? Who's that composer? Jeremiah, help me. Chorus line. Sure, you know. Okay. Anyway,
That's all right.
he's involved.
Okay.
The lyricist Craig.
Hold on, I got these names. What about Marvin Hamlish and Craig Carnegie? Is that it?
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Right. So I go over to 79th Street to Nora's apartment,
Okay.
where Mike is there and Craig Cornelius is there, and I don't think Marvin is there. I can't remember. It was dazzling. The only person in the room I didn't know was me.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And this is like the year before, like, but if you do it in 2002, this is like 01,
Yeah,
like this is right before it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're pitching me to do the show.
Sure.
And
And briefly, what's this one about? If people
this
listening
is
don't really know.
Imaginary Friends is about the fight between Mary McCarthy and Little Foxes, Lily and Hellman. They
Okay.
were famous rivals.
Mm.
And there was a time when Lillian Hellman said, no, Mary McCarthy said, I think on Dick Cavett's show, every word she wrote, including and thee, was a lie.
Bold statement.
Really bold. And they were very, very fierce competitors. And
they were both playwrights, and they basically had beef. Or writers. They were both writers.
Yeah, they were both writers. They were both writers, yeah.
Maybe that's what we need to bring the theater back.
Rivalry and anger.
A little more jousting on talk shows.
Maybe the president should write a play.
Maybe me and you can start jousting. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
okay.
so.
All right.
So anyway, there was this huge thing, and Nora chose to make it a play about the two of them, and we had Swoosie Kurtz as which was not perfect casting, only because she's beautiful, and Lillian Hellman was famously not beautiful, and Cherry Jones looked exactly like Mary McCarthy. And those are the two women. But it was conceived suddenly as a big show. I mean, it had Melvin Hamlish's music, Craig Cornelius' lyrics. There was to be a score. There was to be, the girls weren't supposed to sing, but there was music. So I got Jerry Mitchell, who was my go-to choreographer at that point in my life. We were very, very close. He came in and did the choreography. And I said, because it was true, well, my folks have a barn. Let's go to the Globe and do it. I mean, let's try it outside at the Globe. And that was thrilling for them. And that's exactly what we did. And then we brought it in, and it did not do that well. It did, but here's the interesting thing to me.
Yeah.
All of the women who reviewed the play loved it. And all of the men didn't. It was an interesting moment. Now, please understand, Lillian Hellman had a relationship with Dashiell Hammett.
Okay.
He was her mentor.
Okay.
Mary McCarthy had Edmund Wilson. He was her. These are two women who basically worked under the aegis of a very strong, very successful man. They sort of wrote like men. Nora Ephron is of a generation of women who write like women.
Right.
She did not study under or rise to fame under the aegis of a very protective male instructor. Because the world has shifted, the world has turned now.
When you say someone writes like a woman and writes like a man, like what do you mean? Give a little more context on that. I think I know what you mean, but it's like,
what I'm saying is the gentlemen themselves edited these women.
Right.
Said that's good, that isn't. Fix that. That doesn't go.
Got it.
They were under the tutelage of two very, very strong-willed, editorial, successful writers.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, as history reports at that time, they were, I guess they must have been pleased to be the favorites of those writers, because that's what was available to women at the time. In the 40s and the 50s. Yeah. So it's a richer conversation for us to have, and continue to have, because then you think about Jane Austen, who was her mentor, and there's never been anybody who wrote like her or anyone more successful. There's Silas Marner. There are other women who wrote great pieces but I don't know to what degree they were beholden to the male editor for their success. In this case, we do have two very successful women under the thumb of two very successful men. Yeah. And the show wasn't about that so much.
Right.
I'm trying to show is very vague in my mind. I remember doing it. I remember things about it. I also remember a wonderful song
Yeah.
that Marvin Hamlish wrote.
Do you remember why? Because
That
when
we
you started,
we cut the song. It's one of the best songs I've ever heard in my life.
huh?
About a modern woman. God, it was good.
Do
We
you
cut
remember
it.
why when you said you weren't thrilled with how it went up? You thought like you could have done a better job. Do you remember why necessarily?
Well, now this is what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
I don't have any proof of this.
Mm.
I think Nora wanted Mike to do it. And I think she gave it to Mike, and I think it started out that way, that Mike was going to direct her play.
Yeah.
And then all their friends came around. You know, I was saying last night, I was looking desperate for something smart and witty. And so I looked at Heartburn, that movie Heartburn that Mike made of Nora's novel.
Right.
And it is superb. I mean, everyone in the world is in it.
Yeah.
All of their friends are in it.
Yeah.
Stockard Channing is in it. Joanna Gleason's in it. I mean, everybody's in it. They got everybody to do whatever they wanted to do. And there's Meryl Streep at the beginning of her career, and Jack Nicholson. I mean, they are phenomenal. It's so beautifully made. It's so satisfying a film. I can't tell you. So this was who they were. Nora and Mike were friends. Ann Roth did the clothes. You know, it was that whole group of people.
Yeah.
At the top of their bent. And I think, I have no proof of this, but I think Mike backed out. I think Mike either thought, this isn't for me, I love her dearly, or this is too much for me, or I don't know. I mean, what was too much for Mike Nichols? Who knows?
So, but when you say you feel like you didn't do the best you could have, are you judging that against potentially what he would have done, or are you judging it against your normal, or something about the play? Like
the lingering feeling that I have, is that he gave it to me because he didn't know either what to do with it or didn't have time, and thought that I would.
Yeah.
And he wasn't wrong. It's just that had I been there originally, had I known them, I would have said, this is a very small show.
Yeah.
I think it could have some music. It might even have a piano on stage.
Yeah.
But not Marvin Hamlish in an orchestra, not Jerry Mitchell's dancers. That's not a musical.
I was going to say, that's tough too, man, when you're coming in, you know, with the types of names that were involved, to come in and suddenly be like, this is good, but your instincts initially are wrong, is a really hard, like you can't, it's hard to do that if you're Jack O'Brien in that room.
I'm so happy to be in the room. I can't believe this.
Are there other times you felt that way? Like this similar sort of thing? Like where you've been into a room where you've been like, I can feel my spidey senses telling me that there's something here that needs to be adjusted, but I may not have the type of, you know, I may not be in the weight class that can say it.
I certainly felt that with Stoppard. But Tom was so dear to me. He was so wonderfully open to me. He was so kind and patient. He took so much time with me that he gave me what I needed, and then I gave him what he needed. So we met basically on a very sort of on a level playing field. Yeah. This wasn't a level playing field. I walked in, first of all, that apartment on 79th. Holy shit. Yeah. Nora Ephron.
They really wanted you to do the play, man. They really set you up with the whole everyone there, the nice apartment.
No, I don't think so. I mean, that's funny, but no, that's just the way they thought. Right. They were already on a floor above me. Yeah. And wrong. I mean, I didn't realize till after the fact that we were overproduced. Yeah. It should be revived. We should think about that.
What does that feel like? What do you remember what that felt? I mean, I guess you were saying that about the nice apartment, but I think what I'm really curious about, and part of the reason I wanted to talk to you about this one, is your next musical, the next play you did was Hairspray after Imaginary Friends. And in a lot of ways, that is the play that puts you
On
in
the
the
map.
room with all those people, right? It's like, I know, I know you talk, when you tell the narrative of your career, you talk about Porgy and Bess sort of giving you that first leg up. It feels like Hairspray gives you the second. And I guess what I'm wondering with Imaginary Friends is, that's the one right before Hairspray. It's so interesting you'd have this experience where it would feel like you'd be in the room one level above where you were and have difficulty, really having your voice heard.
How interesting. I think that's true. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, as I've said to you before, the big prize, the big Broadway prize is do a successful original musical.
Yeah.
That is as big a victory as you can have in the American theater.
Yeah.
I mean, do a revival, do a classic revival, do a play, do blah, blah, blah. But when you do an original musical that's never been done and it's a hit,
Yeah.
that delivers you. And that's
Yeah.
true. It did. I didn't realize that was the next show. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And it's interesting too. It's almost like Mike Nichols and Nora Ephron, these people that they serve as almost threshold gatekeepers, because like once you step through their door, you're into that next level where then Hairspray comes next. You just have to navigate that with them. I don't know. I find that happens a lot to artists where really big names will almost sort of help usher them to that next level. It's not necessarily their project, but it's the next one after that it feels like these people help you get to.
Do you know what I have to also say? I have to log here is that, excuse me, they didn't judge me, any of those people.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't deliver a hit, but Nora and I remained friends. Mike and I became even closer.
Yeah.
Marvin and I mean, when I got the George Abbott Award, that the union gives, Nora spoke
Oh, wow.
and did one of the funniest dialogues. I wish I had it. It was about my dog. It was about Punky.
Yeah.
Because she called it the dog. And then she would say blah, 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 blah. And that was that. The dog. It was always about the dog because it's always
Sure.
about the dog,
Yeah, that's
Really.
so I've learned.
Killingly funny. Unbelievable. Marvin played a medley of Bob James, my oldest and dearest friend, came and played some sort of personal things. Marvin worked them into a medley that he played.
Huh.
They all showed up for me.
Yeah.
Even though
Does that surprise you?
well, does it surprise me? I have to say, if you have a disaster, you don't usually hang out. You don't necessarily blame each other, but you don't hang out.
Yeah, man. You don't go off and start a podcast together when it doesn't work.
You don't. You don't.
Yeah, or you do.
Ha 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 ha.
No,
Here
but I
we
know.
are. Here we
I know.
are as friends all these years later, and that doesn't follow ordinarily.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's just is it? It's just interesting because I hear you. I know what you mean, but
I think people are a little embarrassed.
yeah.
I think secretly you may think it was my fault. Everybody thinks that. I didn't deliver.
I didn't think it was your fault.
I know you didn't. I didn't think it was yours either, by the way.
It was mine. It was mine.
Not entirely.
That's all right.
There are a few other people we could blame.
Yeah, sure.
Not that we do. Not that we're interested, but no. I'm trying to think about if I had any really big bombs, disasters. Not really. I've had disappointing shows, but nothing that I'm ashamed of, really.
Yeah.
But ordinarily, all I'm saying is, if you have a success with people, you want to be with them together again.
Yeah.
And I, as an artistic director at the Globe, categorically did not do that. I wanted to make sure that no matter what my friends were, I gave that theater and that community everything I could in terms of diversity, men, women, people, different combinations of people. And I very often said to people that I loved, I can't give you the next show because I don't want it to be our club. And it wasn't our club. It wasn't our club.
No, I know.
So I had a responsibility. I had a very strong ethic about how that happens. But what I'm saying is that with Nora Ephron and having inherited this from Mike and going out to my own theater, and they all came out there for the opening. It was a big glamorous opening night for San Diego.
Yeah.
I never felt them judge me. I never felt. I mean, I loved Nora, and I miss her, and I certainly love Mike and value our friendship, and that was in spite of not delivering, and it's an interesting thing to think that you see behind the event, not just the success or failure of it, but the value of the person themselves to you.
Yeah.
I mean, we had something going for each other that was a friendship that was much more interesting than what we were doing in an odd way.
Yeah.
I think proved to be that for both of us.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, just like I can't speak for, someone like Nora Ephron, right? I can't speak for her, but as a playwright and going through something and you being the director, I mean, obviously I was in a different position than Nora Ephron was, but I think, and even more so now, it's so hard for things to be good. So, like, you know what I mean? And everyone is doing the absolute best they can at every step of the way. Even when, because, we made a joke about, well, you can blame some other things, but any other variable in safe space that we could sort of point our fingers at and tisk, 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 they were doing the best they possibly could too. Whether it's, trying to protect themselves, whether it's trying to do the best, thing they can. It's like, I feel like that's the hard part about, I think, this business is you're combining large groups of people where everyone is trying to do the best they can to do something that's nearly impossible, which is pull off something great.
Ellen, we've just gone through a season where show after show is closing.
Yeah.
Big expectant musicals with really talented people, with very experienced people, one after another, are hitting the dust.
Yeah.
Yazbek's show is closing. Jerry Mitchell's show is closing. Mark and Scott's show is closing. I mean, this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so you look at the season and you think, you're quite right. What went wrong? How as I'm fond of saying, no one starts out to do bad work.
Right.
You do believe in it.
Yeah.
And then somehow what happens? It turns out to papier-mâché or something in your very hands,
Yeah. Do you think this is a little bit doubling back a little bit? Do you think it's sometimes dangerous to work with friends though, because you are sometimes afraid to tell them, and I know this wasn't the case with Mike and Nora, but is it harder to tell them it's overproduced? Like, or do you feel like there's more of a transparency and you know what I mean? Like, because there's different kinds of friendships, there's different things. Have you ever found it hard to work with friends or no?
No, I think no. I think you do work with friends. I think that's who you want to be with.
Right.
I mean, as I'm fond of saying, it's who are you going to have dinner with after the rehearsal?
Yeah. Coda.
She's on the floor.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah. No, I haven't lost any. I've not lost anybody over the years.
Yeah.
Anybody that I've worked with, I haven't.
Yeah.
And I conscientiously try to maintain those relationships too.
Yeah.
I check up with them. Regularly.
I feel like you do a really, just me watching, you do a really good job. Something that I actually wish I did a much better job about. I'm not so good at that.
Well, I'm alone.
Yeah.
You're too. You're alone.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I mean, think about it. Because I castigate you about this all the time. I mean, it's hard to have in these inflated experiences. It's hard to sort through and get the best people around you consistently. It just is. Money's involved, loyalty's involved.
Yeah.
ours is not a business any longer. I think maybe it was at one point where people helped each other out. When I was doing The Selling of the President, my first terrifying, well, there's a bomb. Why didn't I pick that one out, right?
Right.
But, Ron Field, God rest his soul, came to Philadelphia and did a number.
Yeah.
Patsy Birch, who's still with us, came out, did a number for us for no money.
Yeah.
They just came to help out. You used to do that. You used to go out of town when your friends were doing your show and help.
Yeah.
People don't do that anymore.
Do you think that's, I have this, I mean, just on the Hollywood side of it, I sort of have this theory. There's such a scarcity mindset. I feel like right now more, because you hear, every day, like you just said, shows are closing. In Hollywood, there's not near as much money. The tech companies aren't buying as much. Movies aren't doing as well, blah, 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 blah. There's so much fear around grabbing every opportunity you can and being careful, I think, to help with other people. It's like, I don't know. I feel like that's such a defeatist way to go through it, because it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot for me to come see your play and offer any help that I can, or even if it's, I've read so many scripts and tried to help people with them just because I feel like some way in the cosmic equation that comes back to you.
I do
too.
What I mean?
And if we've lost that, then it feels like it's something that kind of needs to be refound. I mean, I understand because it is so competitive, but it's interesting that it didn't used to be like that from your perspective.
I'm trying to think if my suggestions get involved or not anymore. I don't know that they do. I mean, people do want my opinion, and they ask me to come and see their work, but what they want is for me to like it.
Right.
And if I, if I say, well, second act, something wrong in the second act.
Yeah.
They listen. And I guess my advice is as good as anybody's, but I haven't been able to fix it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm a big believer that if people tell you something's not working, they're right. And if they try to tell you how to fix it, they're wrong, or they're usually wrong. You know what I mean? It's like usually when people feel something is off, they're probably right. But a lot of times people are giving solutions to how they would fix their show versus solutions how to fix your show. And you probably are the least likely person to do that because you don't operate that way. But I feel like most people are giving notes based on how they would fix their version of that show, if that makes sense.
I'm not sure everybody doesn't do that. I mean, what other criteria do you have other than those that apply? I look at a dramatic event with a mindset, because that's what I do for a living. And so I know how I tell a story has a great deal to do with how the story lands emotionally.
Sure.
On the shoulders or in the mind and the hearts of the audience.
Sure.
That's very important to me. So I'm always looking for that.
Yeah.
For the spark of reality that will make it live.
Yeah. But all I'm saying is sometimes it's hard, I think, when you go to see a show one time, because like we always talk about, you're bringing to the show your own life and your whole life from behind you. And so you're going to get reflected back to you the thing that speaks to you. And so I think sometimes when something's not working, we note to that versus it's just hard to have the perspective of the whole thing, to note towards the whole versus our perspective sometimes. And like I said, like because you obviously are at the level you are and obviously have been doing it as long, you're probably the least likely person to do that. But I feel like a lot of people give notes based on what they're bringing to the show. And that's just dangerous. Not that they're wrong, that the second act's not working, but usually their solution to fix it is speaking to their version of the show, not maybe what the writer or original director had intended. Does that make sense?
I'm thinking of two people specifically. George Abbott, who was a famous fixer. Neil Simon, whose nickname was Doc.
Yeah.
That he could come in and give you notes that you could take, and he fixed a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Jerry Robbins, famous fixer.
Yeah.
Fixed sort of Funny Girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
To whatever degree he could.
Yeah.
So people can't do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be happening now, though.
Right.
No, it doesn't. And I'm wondering if that's where we are emotionally, creatively, whatever. I don't know.
I've been having meetings where, because I get offered jobs to fix scripts now.
I know you
right?
do.
And I actually love, I'm saying all this, and now I'm going to contradict myself. I actually love trying to structurally fix another person's script. It's like my version of a hobby. I actually love it, and that's why I offer.
You have a skill that a lot of writers don't have, which we both know is a real respect for structure.
Structure. Also, though, and this is what I've been talking to people about. Everyone talks about Hollywood. There's no, every director now is an auteur. They're either aspiring to be an auteur or they are an auteur with a voice. And I think that's because when you have a voice, you have a brand, and a brand is easier to sell. But you think about a great director like someone like Rob Reiner, who did different kinds of movies. He was just a good storyteller.
Right.
Versus being, he wasn't Quentin Tarantino. He wasn't Paul Thomas Anderson. He wasn't these directors that have a specific point of view and all of their stories feel like a Quentin Tarantino movie. Go ahead.
Ron Howard.
He's another really good one, right? He's just a great storyteller. And I think through this process of my last year, I've been learning that I actually think I'm a lot closer to that mold than I am any other mold that I would be lucky enough to fall into, right? And I think it speaks to what we're talking about, which is like if a version of, maybe the reason I've fallen into opportunities to be a fixer is because I don't have as much of a voice as much as I do just like an understanding of the storytelling mechanism, if that makes sense.
Yes, you're not an auteur in that respect, I don't think.
Right.
Like Wes Anderson is.
Right. And don't really want to be.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't really speak to me in that way, whereas then you see a lot of other people where it does. And I think that's been very, very popular over the last 20 years or so. And is the way that a lot of people have made a lot of money by branding their auteurness. And it's just interesting because I couldn't think of many directors now that are like that, working in Hollywood, even the guy like Taylor Sheridan, who obviously structure and everything is a great storyteller, but when he makes something, it's him. You know what I mean? It sounds and it feels like him. And I don't know. I've been talking with people about that and thinking about it. But I mean, Mike Nichols was kind of like that. Like he was more of a fixer and storyteller and could do a lot of different things. And so you didn't really know it was a Mike Nichols movie.
Yep, you did. But you also knew when it was a Mike Nichols movie.
Sure. The quality and the...
I think so.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I think, you got to go back and look at his version of, what's Tony Kushner's great epic?
Angels in America.
Angels in America. I mean, take a look at that.
Yeah.
Mike delivered that big time.
Yeah.
It's as good as anything he ever did.
Yeah.
And that was not necessarily a genre piece you think would be up his alley, but it was. It certainly was. It's one of the last things he did, I think.
Yeah. I know I told you, we have a really interesting triangulation with Mike Nichols that I think maybe we haven't talked about this on the podcast. The first time I met you, you told me to check out the documentary you made about Mike Nichols.
Yes.
And I remember that, and I did, and I watched it, and I enjoyed watching you guys talk to each other. I didn't know who Mike Nichols was then, basically.
Wow. And
it's interesting because Mike Nichols had developed a lot of versions of Highest to Lowest, which ended up being the movie I just wrote that'll come out in August.
That's right.
And I told you that, last time I saw you, I told you the best piece of screenwriting advice I've ever gotten was from a producer named Amy Pascal, who told me Mike Nichols told her, if a scene's not working, try the opposite. And that concept,
Have you ever done that?
I do it every day I sit down to write. If something's not working, like if you and I, if the scene is me and you sitting here talking on a podcast, I walk in and start talking to you. If it feels flat, feels like something's not working, I'll immediately say, oh, what if Jack walks in and starts talking to me? What if Jack has to speak first? What if he comes in? What if I'm not walking in? What if I'm running the other way? What would happen? And that's not always the solution, but it always lights something in my brain that's like, oh, interesting. Now we can do this.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
I just got a royalty check for $622.
Yeah.
For that documentary.
I love it. First off, I love that.
Cool?
Second off, yeah, that is really cool. And second off, and everyone should check that out. It's called Becoming Mike Nichols.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was on HBO. It was an HBO production.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. Jack leads him through the Q&A and was the director on that, right?
I was, but
yeah.
Matt McGrath. No,
Yeah.
not Matt McGrath. Doug McGrath.
Doug McGrath. Okay,
who
cool.
died, yeah. He was part of it, the three of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mike said to me, it was his favorite thing he ever did on film.
That's
Isn't
cool.
that great?
Yeah.
He looks terrible because it was at the end of his life, but
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I know
There
what you
you
mean.
go.
Well,
There you
what I was going to ask you as we wrapped up, I wanted to know what piece of advice did you get from him that has always stayed with you? Is there a piece of advice that you remember him saying or something
No.
he taught you?
no.
Interesting.
No. Because what was happening by the time Mike and I became friends is he was losing confidence. So he was calling me for notes.
Yeah.
He was calling me and come down to the theater and tell me what's gone wrong here.
Yeah.
And it was humbling because I didn't think that was necessary. But I did see what he was talking about because
Yeah.
he became too dependent on his passion to make a movie to realize the humility of doing a play, which is that you have to, you can't avoid the simple truth.
Yeah. Little did he know, man. Notes with Jack would one day be born, man. He was calling, the fixer was calling you for notes, and he was just,
And here they are.
You are the notes giver, man. All right, well, let's wrap it up there, Jack. This was wonderful. We got a couple more weeks before you get into the Sound of Music, I know.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of hanging. We're in this weird in-between phase where
Other
next week,
things are happening, and we have to figure that out.
Yeah, I know they are.
I know.
I know they are.
We're bearing the lead. We're bearing the lead.
That's all right, man. One day we'll talk about the lead.
Okay.
Okay.
Stay
All right,
with
well,
us.
Stay with us. Stay with us. More to come. Thank you as always, Jack. We love you, and we'll check in next week.
My pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.